The phone rang in the emergency room. I sobbed into the receiver. "Michael, I have acute appendicitis. The doctor says I need emergency surgery right now. Can you transfer $1,000 for the ER copay?" A dead silence fell over the line, followed by a cold reply that cut off my breath. I gave my whole paycheck to my mom to hold on to. I don't have it. Just $1,000 to save his wife's life, and he didn't have it. Meanwhile, his sister was wearing a $500 designer dress, carrying a $3,000 handbag, and had received $100,000 for a house down payment directly from his hands. I clutched my phone tightly. In that moment, I realized this marriage wasn't just a betrayal, it was a war, and I was not going to lose. A sharp, stabbing pain erupted from the depths of my abdomen, twisting into my flesh like a jagged knife. I curled up on the stiff, uncomfortable bed in the emergency room of Northwestern Memorial Hospital in Chicago. Cold sweat drenched my hair, pasting it to my temples. The glaring fluorescent lights on the ceiling blurred through my tear-filled eyes. Everything spun. Only the agonizing pain felt brutally real. A young, impatient nurse stood next to me holding a clipboard. "Ma'am, where is your family? We need a $1,000 deposit for your insurance deductible to process the emergency surgery." The doctor diagnosed acute appendicitis. "If we don't operate fast, it will rupture, and it could be fatal. Family." The word hit my chaotic mind like a sledgehammer. That morning, feeling a stomachache, I took an Uber to the clinic alone. But just 30 minutes later, the pain became unbearable, and the doctor rushed me to the ER. Trembling, I fumbled for my phone in my jacket pocket, the cold screen pressing against my sweaty palm. The contact list showed a name that now physically hurt to look at: Hubby. I hit call, my hand shaking so badly I almost dropped it. The ringing seemed to last a century, each tone piercing my tightening chest. "Hello. I'm here, babe." Michael, my husband, answered, sounding slightly annoyed. I took a deep breath, trying to suppress a groan of pain, my voice hoarse. "Michael, I'm at the hospital. The doctor says I have acute appendicitis and need emergency surgery. Can you Zelle me $1,000 for the hospital deposit?" The other end went completely silent. The silence lasted only a few seconds, but to me, it felt endless, heavier, and more terrifying than the physical pain. I could hear his steady breathing, and the hesitation in it. Finally, he spoke, his voice mumbly and evasive. I don't have any money. I gave my whole paycheck to my mom this month. You know that." "What?" I practically screamed, biting my lip as a wave of pain hit me. "What are you saying? You make $8,000 a month, and you gave every single cent to your mother. You didn't keep a dime? It's just $1,000. Well, Mom says I'm bad with money and spend too much. She's keeping it safe so we can provide for kids later, or upgrade our house." Michael's voice grew quieter, as if even he knew how absurd his excuse sounded. "Can't you just ask the nurse to bill us later? Let me talk to Mom and see what she says." Bill us later? My appendix was about to burst. How could this wait? Tears streamed down my face, no longer from physical agony, but from absolute, suffocating despair and bitterness. I had been married to this man for 3 years. 3 years of giving up a career. I loved to be his rock at home, taking care of his family, so he could focus on climbing the corporate ladder. And now, on the brink of death, he couldn't even manage $1,000 for my hospital bill. "Do you have any idea that I am in excruciating pain?" I screamed into the phone, tears mixing with sweat. "The doctor said if I don't get surgery, I could die." Hearing the commotion, the nurse frowned, shaking her head sympathetically. "Ma'am, please get your family here now. We can't delay any longer." I hung up, feeling as if all my life force had been drained. I lay there staring at the sterile white ceiling, feeling like a fragile boat caught in a violent storm with nowhere to anchor. Less than 10 minutes later, the ER door was pushed open aggressively. My mother-in-law, Helen, marched in, carrying a beat-up reusable grocery bag. The moment she saw me on the bed, she slapped her thigh dramatically and started yelling loudly. "Oh my lord, a little stomach ache and you run to the emergency room to throw a tantrum. What kind of wife doesn't care about her husband or value a dollar? Do you know how hard my son works to make money? I was in too much pain to form a complete sentence. I could only whisper, "Mom, it's acute appendicitis. They have to operate." "Operate! My foot!" Helen sneered, tossing the ragged bag onto my bedside table so roughly that a few bruised apples rolled out onto the floor. "I know you're just trying to squeeze money out of us. $1,000 could buy groceries for months. You're a financial disaster. Every penny my son makes, I have to hold on to for emergencies. Giving it to a woman like you is like throwing gold into a river." Before I could process her cruelty, she clicked her tongue, shooting me a glare as sharp as a knife. "It's your own fault anyway. You eat junk food all day. No wonder your stomach hurts. Go home, drink some hot ginger tea, and you'll be fine. Coming here is just a waste of money." A middle-aged woman in the neighboring curtained bed couldn't stand the sight of it. She spoke up. "Lady, appendicitis is no joke. If it bursts, she could die." Helen whipped her head around, her eyes bulging at the woman. "Mind your own business. Who asked you to butt into my family's affairs? Nosy busybody." Just then, a nurse walked in with an IV line. She frowned at Helen sternly. "Ma'am, please go to the front desk and pay the deductible. The surgical team is ready." But my mother-in-law simply pulled up a chair, crossed her legs, and sat down, acting as if she owned the hospital. "Pay what? I don't have any money. If she wants surgery, she can pay for it herself. A barren hen who can't even lay an egg. Spending the Cole family's money on her is a waste. She just eats and breathes our resources." Her final words were a fatal stab to my bleeding heart. Married 3 years with no children, that was the thorn in her side, the excuse she used to criticize and grind me down every single day. I gripped the bedsheets, my nails digging into my palms until they bled. Suffocating anger choked my throat. I tried to sit up to argue with her, when my phone buzzed on the table. It was my own mother, Martha. Trembling, I reached for the phone. My heart felt an invisible surge of strength. I hit answer, trying to keep my voice from breaking. "Mom? Annie? How are you?" My mother's voice, though laced with worry, was incredibly calm and steady. Hearing her, all my restrained emotions shattered. "What's wrong, honey?" I sobbed, tears flooding my face. "Mom, I have acute appendicitis. Tiviti. I need surgery. But they won't give me the money for the deposit." "Stop crying," my mother interrupted decisively. Her voice hardened, filled with fierce protection. "I am zelling you $2,500 right now. Check your account, pay the hospital, and get into surgery immediately. Listen to me. No matter what they say, no matter what they do, you endure it for now. The most important thing is saving your life. Do you understand? I'll arrange things at work and book a flight to Chicago right away." "But Mom, they're so awful," I choked out, still grieving. "Listen to me." Her voice softened, but retained its authority. "Focus on getting well. Once you recover, I will teach you exactly what to do. Let me handle everything." I hung up. A ding sounded the notification that $2,500 had hit my bank account. In that moment, it wasn't just money. It was life, love, and the boundless protection of a mother. I quickly called the nurse. "I have the money now. I'll pay it right now." Helen, who had been sitting with her legs crossed, shot up like a coiled spring. Her eyes gleamed with an unnatural intensity. "Where did you get money? Who gave it to you? Was it your old hag of a mother? I knew it. She always hated me, trying to drive a wedge between you and my son. That money belongs to my son." I didn't bother replying. I forced myself up, leaning on the bedrail to stand. A spike of pain almost made me collapse. Helen lunged forward not to catch me, but to snatch the phone from my hand. "Give it to me. Transfer that money to my account right now. That is Cole family money. You have no right to spend it," she roared, her wrinkled face twisting into something demonic. The nurse ran over to intervene. "What are you doing? The patient is weak and needs surgery immediately." The woman in the next bed also rushed over, pulling Helen's arm back. "What is wrong with you? Can't you see she's sick?" Restrained by 2 people, Helen kept thrashing, screaming at the top of her lungs. "Anna, you ungrateful wretch. You eat my family's food, live under our roof. I'm telling you, if you spend one dime of that money today, I will make Michael divorce you instantly." Ignoring the toxic curses behind my back, I held my stomach with one hand and the wall with the other, dragging my heavy feet out of the room. The strong smell of antiseptic in the hallway burned my nose. I touched my forehead. I was still sweating profusely. Physical agony and mental torment blended into one, but an extraordinary determination rose within me. For a mere $1,000, I had seen the true, monstrous face of this family. My mother told me to endure. Yes, I would endure, but this debt, both financial and emotional, I would collect on, with interest. After paying the bill and returning to the room, Helen was gone. The cheap, bruised apples she brought were still rolling on the floor. I kicked one into the corner and collapsed onto the bed, waiting for surgery. Staring at the sterile, apathetic ceiling, I gripped my phone tightly and reopened my mother's text. 3 short words, but heavier than a mountain. "I am here." Before the anesthesia took over, pulling my consciousness into a fog, only one clear, razor-sharp thought remained in my mind. Michael, Helen. Just you wait. The day I returned home from the hospital, the Chicago sky was as gloomy as my heart. Heavy gray clouds rolled ominously, pressing down on the skyline. Holding my healing incision with one hand and a bag of belongings with the other, I slowly walked into the condo I once thought of as my sanctuary. As I pushed the door open, the first sight that greeted me was my mother-in-law, Helen, sitting like a queen on the expensive leather sofa. In front of her was a thick ledger and a calculator. The clicking of the buttons in the quiet room sounded piercingly harsh. "You're back?" She glanced up at me with ice-cold eyes before looking back at her ledger. She jutted her chin toward a stack of hospital bills on the coffee table. "Look at this. 3 days in the hospital and you burned through $4,000. Completely unnecessary. Back in my day, a home remedy would have cured it, cheap and safe. But you just had to rush to a hospital to let them cut you open. A waste of money, and you brought bad luck into the house." I had no energy left to argue. The dull ache from my incision and the exhaustion of the hospital stay made me just want to lie down in my room. I leaned against the wall, heading toward my bedroom. Just then, the door to my sister-in-law's room swung open. Lily, my 4-year-old sister-in-law who acted like a spoiled teenager, bounced out. She was wearing a brand new designer dress. The price tag was still dangling from the sleeve. "Mom, look at my new dress. I just bought it on the Magnificent Mile. It was only $500. Instantly, Helen's scowling face bloomed like a late spring flower. She grabbed Lily's hand, spun her around, and looked her up and down, showering her with praise. "Beautiful, gorgeous. My daughter looks like a supermodel in whatever she wears. Did you have enough money, honey? If not, tell Mom, and I'll sell you some more for shopping." I stood there, paralyzed, watching them. My stomach churned with nausea. Just days ago, when I was writhing in agony on the floor, she outright refused to pay a $1,000 emergency deposit. Yet now, she didn't hesitate for a second to fund a $500 dress for her daughter. I leaned against the doorframe, trying to stand steady, my voice weak. "Mom, I just had surgery. I'm very weak. Could you buy some organic groceries and make some good soup so I can recover?" The smile vanished from Helen's face. She turned to me, her expression reverting to its usual scowl. "Recover with what? They say food is medicine. Plain oatmeal with salt is enough to keep you alive. You sit at home making zero income, and you want premium groceries. Every cent Michael makes, I have to manage. I can't let you throw it away on luxury." Just as she finished speaking, Michael walked through the front door. He took off his expensive Brooks Brothers suit jacket and casually handed it to me. As I caught it, my fingers brushed against a pack of premium cigars in his pocket, the kind he smoked constantly, even though he knew I was allergic to the smoke. "My son is home," Helen shot up eagerly, rushing to pour him a glass of water. "Are you tired from work, honey? I saved you a big plate of baked ziti in the kitchen." My heart clenched. Baked ziti, wasn't that what I had craved, and asked them to buy ingredients for this morning? "Michael," I stepped forward and weakly tugged his sleeve. "I'm exhausted. I really want some hot chicken soup to regain my strength." Michael swatted my hand away callously, frowning in annoyance. Eat whatever Mom cooks. Stop making demands. The doctor said you need to eat bland food. Did you forget? With that, he walked straight into the kitchen, brought out a massive, steaming plate of pasta, and sat at the dining table with his mother and sister. The three of them ate, laughed, and chatted loudly, slurping and chewing with gusto. They ate as if I simply did not exist in this house. I stood there watching them, feeling a bone-chilling cold seep into my marrow. It was a humid Chicago summer, yet I pulled my thin cardigan tightly around myself. Nothing could chase away the freezing cruelty radiating from the people I called family. The following days in that house were a long exercise in endurance. My incision still ached, and I was visibly growing weaker, but my daily menu never changed. Breakfast was watery, plain oatmeal with a dash of salt. Lunch was boiled, wilted spinach with clear broth and zero fat. Dinner was oatmeal again with some salty pickled vegetables. I knew I couldn't go on like this. My health was deteriorating. I had to save myself. Taking advantage of an empty house, I sneaked a few crumpled bills I had saved from before my marriage out of my wallet, deciding to go to the local market to buy some nutritious food. The local neighborhood market was loud and bustling. The smell of fresh produce and meat mingled in the air. I walked straight to the butcher counter. Suddenly, I saw a familiar figure standing at the adjacent stall. It was my mother-in-law. She was haggling over pennies with the butcher for a piece of cheap, fatty, discolored ground beef. "Come on, knock 50 cents off. This meat doesn't even look fresh," Helen complained. The butcher looked annoyed. "Lady, this is the cheapest cut we have. I'm selling it to you at rock bottom. If you don't want it, leave." Helen hesitated, flipping the fatty meat over and over. I took a deep breath, suppressing my disgust, and walked right up. I pulled a crisp $50 bill from my wallet and spoke loudly. "Excuse me, I'll take 2 pounds of your premium ribeye steak. The best cut you have, please." Seeing a big spender, the butcher's face lit up. He quickly selected a gorgeous, marbled piece of ribeye and wrapped it up. Hearing my voice, Helen whipped her head around. When she saw the premium steak in my hands, her eyes shot fire. She threw her fatty beef down, lunged over, snatched the bag of steak from my hands, and slammed it back onto the counter. "What the hell are you doing?" she screamed, pointing her finger right in my face. "Buying this expensive garbage to feed to the dogs. Do you have no concept of saving money for your husband? You parasite!" Spit flew from her mouth. The entire market stopped. All eyes turned to us. My face burned with embarrassment and fury. "This is my own money. I'm buying it for myself." "It has nothing to do with you," I replied coldly. "Your money is Michael's money. You are his wife. Your money belongs to this family." She shrieked, hands on her hips. "If I didn't keep an eye on things, this family would go bankrupt because of you. You useless woman, all you do is eat, and you can't even give birth. You're a drain on our resources." Her venomous words were daggers, stabbing my dignity. The crowd started whispering and pointing. I felt stripped naked in the middle of the market. I was about to yell back, but my mother's words echoed in my ears. "Endure for now." Right then, the phone in my pocket buzzed. I pulled it out. It was a text from my mom. "I just wired you $5,000. Don't be afraid of anything. Buy whatever you want to eat. Wear whatever you want to wear. Take excellent care of yourself. This is your body. No one will love you as much as you love yourself. Keep your head held high." Reading that text, a surge of warmth rushed down my spine. Tears threatened to fall, but I swallowed them back. I lifted my chin and looked Helen dead in the eyes. I picked up the bag of steak from the counter, brushed it off, and handed the money to the butcher. "Keep the change." Then, under Helen's shocked and furious gaze, and amidst the murmurs of the crowd, I walked out of the market with my head held high. I knew my mother hadn't just given me money. She gave me confidence, pride, and the courage to fight back. She was right, I had to endure. But enduring didn't mean being humiliated. Enduring meant gathering strength and waiting for the right moment. And today was the first turning point. I would never let anyone trample over me again. I carried the steak home, my heart heavy but filled with resolve. The fading evening sunlight filtered through the trees, casting alternating shadows on the sidewalk, much like my current mood. I was going to cook a fantastic steak dinner, not to provoke anyone, but to reward myself and regain my lost strength. Pushing the front door open, I saw Lily sprawling on the sofa, admiring a bright red designer handbag. It was brand new, the logo shining easily a $3,000 Chanel bag. Seeing me with groceries, she smirked mockingly. "Oh, sister-in-law went grocery shopping? What fancy food are we having today? Steak? Probably some frozen clearance meat about to expire, right?" She glanced at my bag with pure disdain. "Yesterday, Mom and I went to an upscale steakhouse downtown. We had Japanese Wagyu. One tiny piece cost hundreds of dollars. That's what rich people eat." I said nothing, walking silently into the kitchen. I didn't want to waste my breath on someone like her. I washed the meat and started prepping the pan. The sound of running water couldn't drown out Lily's whiny, sycophantic voice drifting from the living room. "Mom, look at my new bag." My friends say it's the newest collection. It makes me look so classy, right? "Of course. Anything my daughter wears looks classy," Helen praised. "Spend whatever you want. If you run out, tell Mom. Michael makes money for us to spend. Who else?" I gripped the chef's knife tightly. The sound of chopping garlic echoed with a sharp thwack. I had to tell myself to stay calm. Endure. But Lily didn't want to leave me alone. She strolled into the kitchen, hands on her hips, intentionally showing off a brand new, thick gold Cartier bracelet on her pale wrist. "Look at this, Anna." She shoved her wrist in my face, shaking it so the heavy gold clinked. "Mom just bought this for me. Cost over $5,000. Mom says girls need to wear gold to show their worth." She glanced down at my wrist, where I wore a small, slightly tarnished silver bracelet. It was a family heirloom my grandmother had left to my mother, who gave it to me on my wedding day. It wasn't worth much monetarily, but to me, it held a sky full of memories and love. "Wow, compared to my Cartier, your silver bracelet looks like ancient junk. Probably not even worth $50, huh?" she sneered. "I guess country girls only get cheap trash for a dowry." I stopped chopping, looked up at her, my eyes freezing over. "It may not be worth much in dollars, but it is priceless to me." "Priceless?" Lily burst into obnoxious laughter. "Who talks about sentimental value anymore? That's so cheesy. Money is everything. Do you understand?" Then she lowered her voice, leaning close to my ear, her tone dripping with venom. "You've been in this house for 3 years, right? You've freeloaded off my brother long enough. You can't even pop out a single kid. You really are just a barren hen taking up space, completely useless." That sentence was the match that ignited the powder keg inside my chest. Insult me all you want, but mocking my inability to conceive and insulting my grandmother's heirloom, I absolutely could not take it anymore. All my endurance shattered into a million pieces. "What did you just say?" I ground out every syllable, my eyes blazing, glaring right into her face. The fury exploded, incinerating all my reason. I grabbed the heavy chef's knife from the cutting board, not to threaten her, but in my blind rage, I slammed the blade down onto the heavy wooden block. Any slam. The deafening noise made Lily jump out of her skin. She stumbled backward, her face turning ashen. A piece of meat flew off the board, and a few drops of blood splattered onto the pristine white tiles, as dark red as the boiling rage inside me. "Repeat what you just said." I clenched my teeth, still gripping the knife handle. I said you're barren," Lily stammered, terrified but still trying to act tough. "My mom is right. A woman who can't have kids is just garbage." "You little brat," I roared, dropping the knife and lunging toward her. I wanted to tear her venomous mouth apart. Right at that moment, Michael walked through the door. Seeing the chaos in the kitchen, he rushed over and grabbed me, holding me back tightly. "What are you two doing? Why are you tearing the house apart?" "Let go of me," I thrashed in his arms. "Ask her what she just said to me." "Michael!" "She tried to hack me with a knife," Lily wailed, tears welling up, playing the perfect victim. Michael turned to me, his eyes devoid of concern, filled only with blame. "Anna, what is wrong with you? Lily is young. Even if she said something wrong, you're the sister-in-law. You should be the bigger person. Why are you making such a scene?" "The bigger person?" She was 24 years old. She wasn't a child anymore. My heart felt like it was being crushed in a vice. I pointed at the gold bracelet on Lily's wrist and the expensive bag tossed on the sofa, my voice cracking with suppressed agony. Look at her. She's young, but every day she buys designer brands. Where does that money come from? From you. When I was in the hospital, dying, begging you for $1,000, you said you had nothing. But for her, a $3,000 bag, a $5,000 bracelet, and you don't say a word. How exactly am I supposed to be the bigger person? Michael frowned in annoyance. Lily is my only sister. She isn't married yet. As her older brother, spoiling her a bit isn't a crime. Besides, Mom manages the money. How Mom spends it is her right. She has it all calculated. She isn't wasting it. Not wasting it? I laughed bitterly. A $500 dress, a $3,000 bag, a $5,000 bracelet. Next, she'll be demanding a sports car. You work hard for your $8,000 a month, yet I have to use my own savings just to buy a piece of meat. Do you think that's fair? You are getting so petty and calculating. Michael's voice dropped, turning icy. Mom takes care of the finances, and I trust her completely. Just know your place as a wife, and stop having these ridiculous, paranoid thoughts. Helen, who had been eavesdropping from the hallway, finally walked in, looping her arm through Michael's, her voice sickly sweet. Oh, honey, don't argue with your wife. She just had surgery. Her hormones are probably out of whack. Lily, apologize to your sister-in-law. Lily pouted, mumbling an inaudible apology. There, see? It's fine now. Let's eat. Mom bought a beautiful sea bass today to nourish my hard-working son, Helen said, deliberately ignoring me. I looked at the table, at the fragrant steamed sea bass, at the three people with their hypocritical faces, and felt entirely drained of strength. I turned around and walked straight to the master bedroom. I'm not eating. Help yourselves. I slammed the door shut. I couldn't take it anymore. I pulled my suitcase from under the bed, throwing in some clothes, my wallet, and my essentials. I had to leave this place immediately. As I rolled the suitcase into the living room, Helen was placing the best piece of fish into her bowl. Seeing me, she didn't even blink. She just said to her son, "Let her go. Let her face the real world. Once she's starving and miserable, she'll crawl right back." Oh, son, tomorrow, go put a deposit down on that red luxury SUV for Lily. I think it matches her aura. The front door slammed shut behind me, but I could still hear Michael softly replying to his mother. Yes, Mom. The condo hallway was pitch black, the motion sensor light flickering. I dragged my suitcase, tears streaming down my face. I pulled out my phone and dialed my mom. As soon as she picked up, I broke down sobbing. Mom, Annie? What happened, honey? Her voice was gentle and filled with anxiety. Don't cry. Take a breath and tell me. Don't say anything else. Come home to Mom. I made your favorite chicken noodle soup. Sitting in the Uber, heading to my mother's house, I stared out the window. The Chicago skyline was bright and dazzling, but my heart was pitch black. I rubbed the silver bracelet on my wrist, Grandma's heirloom. I promised myself I would never let anyone insult it, just like I would never let anyone trample on my life again. Helen, Michael, Lily. Just you wait. The game is just beginning. The moment the door to my mom's cozy house opened, the rich smell of homemade chicken soup rushed into my nose, awakening my senses. My mother stood there, her hair graying but her eyes sharp and warm. She didn't ask questions. She just took my suitcase and pulled me inside. Come in. Everything's ready. On the dining table sat a steaming bowl of soup. Next to it was a plate of sweet and sour ribs, my absolute favorite. She even had a pair of brand new, fluffy pink slippers waiting for me at the door. Seeing all this, my heart settled. All the resentment and grief were soothed. I sat at the table, picking up my fork with trembling hands, lifting a tender piece of chicken to my mouth. Suddenly, my tears fell uncontrollably into the bowl. Why cry? It's a waste of energy. My mom sat beside me, handing me a tissue. Eat first. Get full. Once you have strength, we talk. In this world, honey, there is no sadness a good meal can't fix. If there is, eat too. I laughed through my tears. My mom was always like this, finding a way to make huge catastrophes feel manageable. As I ate, I sniffling, told her everything from Lily flaunting her wealth and insulting me, to Michael's indifferent defense of them, to Helen's final comment. My mom just listened in silence, continuously serving more food onto my plate. After I finished eating and drank the last drop of hot broth, she finally spoke slowly. Annie, do you really believe your husband makes $8,000 a month, but only keeps a few hundred for himself and gives the rest to his mother? She looked me dead in the eye, her gaze piercing. I froze. That's what he said, Mom. He said she's keeping it for the family. My mom shook her head, smiling cynically. Men, honey. No matter how devoted they are to their mothers, no man is stupid enough to hand over every single dime like that, especially a man with a high-level corporate job like him. Let me tell you the truth. I suspect Michael is hiding a lot from you. What do you mean? My heart started pounding. I don't know for sure, she sighed. But I think you need to find out the truth. You are his wife. You have the right to know exactly how much he makes and where it goes. Tomorrow, go back to that house and find a way to secretly check his phone. Mom, I can't do that. That's an invasion of privacy, I protested weakly. Since I was a child, she had taught me to live honestly and honorably. Privacy? She frowned. He treated you like garbage. His whole family treats you worse than a servant, and you're worrying about his privacy? Annie, you play fair with decent people, not with people who trample on you. If you don't expose this, you'll live the rest of your life in lies and resentment. Is that what you want? Her words were a bucket of ice water to my face. She was right. I had been far too weak. I couldn't live in the shell of a submissive wife anymore. The next morning, gathering all my courage, I returned to the condo. I went straight into the master bedroom. Michael's phone was charging on the nightstand. My heart beat like a war drum. I took a deep breath, picked up the phone, and looked at the lock screen. I hesitated, then with trembling fingers, entered a series of numbers, our anniversary date. Click! The screen unlocked. A bitter smile formed on my lips. He still remembered our anniversary. Yet he treated me like dirt. How ironic. Shaking, I opened his banking app. My heart felt like it would leap out of my chest. The transaction history populated line by line, like knives slicing into my heart. Just as he said, on the 15th of every month, exactly $8,000 was transferred out. Recipient, Helen Cole. But what paralyzed me wasn't that. I scrolled down, and a transaction from 6 months ago caught my eye, making me almost drop the phone. Wire transfer, $100,000. Recipient, Lily Cole. Memo, house down payment, $100,000. That massive number danced before my eyes, making me dizzy. I remembered lying in the hospital, begging him for $1,000, and him telling me he had zero. But his sister just asked, and she instantly got $100,000. The cruel disparity suffocated me. I scrolled down to see his current account balance. $250, not even $300. Why are you looking at my phone? A frigid voice echoed from the doorway. I jumped and spun around. Michael was standing there, wrapped in a towel, dripping wet from a shower. He had come home, and I hadn't even noticed. I stood frozen, the phone suddenly feeling 1,000 pounds heavy. Michael marched over and snatched the phone from my hand. His face turned bright red with fury. I asked you why you're looking at my phone. Who gave you the right? He roared, entirely shedding his usual mild-mannered facade. The initial shock faded, replaced by absolute, uncontrollable outrage. I wasn't afraid anymore. I pointed at the screen, my voice trembling with rage. If I didn't look, how would I know who you really are? How would I know you've been lying to me for years? $100,000. Explain this number to me. You gave your sister $100,000 to buy a house. But when your wife is in the hospital needing $1,000 to save her life, you say you don't have a penny. Michael, do you have a conscience? Michael's face went from red to ghostly pale. He stammered, That! Mom told me to transfer it. Lily is my only sister. She's going to get married soon, shouldn't she have a house? I'm her brother, what's wrong with helping her? Helping her? I laughed maniacally, a twisted laugh full of tears. What about me? What am I in this house? Am I your wife, or am I unpaid labor? An incubator you and your family are waiting on. Don't cross the line, Michael yelled, trying to mask his guilt with anger. You are my wife. Why are you comparing yourself to my sister? Mom already said she's keeping the money. Once we have kids, she'll give it back. She just wants what's best for us. Best for us? I couldn't believe my ears. Your mom takes your money so her daughter can buy designer brands and luxury cars, while I have to eat oatmeal and pickles. That is best for us? Wake up. Your mother only sees you as an ATM, and I'm just a tool to carry on your bloodline. I couldn't endure another second. I snatched the phone back from him and stormed into the living room, where Helen and Lily were watching TV and eating fruit. I slammed the phone onto the coffee table, maximizing the transaction history. Mom, explain this to me. Michael gave Lily $100,000 to buy a house, but when I'm dying in the hospital needing $1,000, you all say we're broke. Why? Helen glanced at the screen, then at me. Without an ounce of shame or embarrassment, she picked up the phone, shoved it into Michael's hand, and pointed a finger directly at my face. You jinx! You love digging through other people's business. My family's money goes to whoever I want. Does it involve you? Do you have the right to speak here? Michael, throw her out right now. Looking at her face makes me sick. Lily sat nearby, crossing her arms, smirking victoriously. Yeah, sister-in-law, my brother's money is my money. Throwing a tantrum won't change anything. I looked at Michael, searching for one last shred of justice from the man I called my husband, but all I received was a look of disappointment and coldness. Anna, you're out of line. You've deeply disappointed me. That sentence was the last straw. I looked at the three of them, three brazen, cruel faces. I suddenly found it hilarious. Hilarious that I wasted my love and sacrifice for 3 years. I didn't say another word. I silently turned and walked to the door. As I stepped out, I heard Helen yelling behind me, "Quick, throw all her crap out into the hall. It's just taking up space." I walked down the dark hallway without shedding a single tear. My heart was dead. I sat on a freezing bench in the courtyard, looking at the gray sky. The chilly wind bit into me. My phone buzzed constantly, Michael calling. I ignored it. By late afternoon, my mom called. Her voice was incredibly calm. Come home and eat, honey. I made the pot roast you love. I dragged my feet to her house. She was waiting at the front gate, holding a heavy winter coat. Put this on. It's getting cold. Don't catch a chill. During dinner, she didn't ask about Michael's family. She just told funny stories from my childhood. She told me about how, at 3 years old, I sneaked a sip of Dad's whiskey and hugged a telephone pole, calling for her. She told me about how I got an award in 1st grade and demanded we tape it to the bathroom door. I listened, and the tears finally rolled down my face freely. After dinner, my mom pulled me into her bedroom and opened her old heavy safe. She pulled out a thick folder. These are things I prepared before you even got married. She pointed to a legal document. That condo you and Michael live in? I bought it with my own money. The deed is in your name. I just let him live there. I was stunned. Mom, why did you? I have a good eye for people, she interrupted. I knew Helen was a piece of work. And here, she pulled out a stack of papers. These are bank statements tracking every paycheck you transferred to Michael over the past 3 years. It totals over $50,000. I had my accountant formalize the records. That little bit of money. That's my blood and sweat. Anna, listen to me, she interrupted again. From today on, you keep your own paychecks. And more importantly, you must find a way to get Michael's official bank statements and proof that Helen gave Lily that money to waste. Do you know why? Why? My mother looked at me, her eyes razor sharp. Because when the time comes, we are taking back everything that is yours. He makes $8,000 a month, yet lets my daughter suffer and be humiliated? I don't think so. She pressed a tiny, discreet spy pen into my hand. Tomorrow, you go back there, eat, drink, and don't argue with them. But turn this on and keep it in your pocket. Understand? I held the spy pen, feeling its weight. It wasn't just electronics, it was my weapon. My war had officially begun. That night, I stayed at my mom's, but my sleep was restless. Images of my in-laws' audacity, Michael's cold eyes, and Lily's smug smile swirled in my head. The next morning, I returned to the condo not as a defeated wife, begging for forgiveness, but as a soldier entering a battlefield. In my pocket, the spy pen lay dormant, but I could feel its power. I arrived around noon. Michael was sitting blankly on the sofa, an overflowing ashtray in front of him. Seeing me, he jumped up, his face a mix of guilt and anxiety. "Anna, you're back?" He reached out to grab my hand, but I stepped back. "Anna, I'm sorry." His voice was hoarse. Yesterday I was wrong. I shouldn't have yelled at you. Mom talked to me too. Please don't be mad anymore, okay?" I looked at him without speaking. I knew this was an act. He wasn't apologizing for lying. He was apologizing for letting me catch him. He was afraid I would make a massive scene and destroy the facade of his perfect family. Helen and Lily emerged from their rooms. Contrary to my expectations, they didn't mock me. Helen even forced a stiff smile. "Daughter-in-law is back. Well, couples fight. Just let it go. Come eat. I cooked your favorites." Lily just glanced at me and looked away, but at least she didn't say anything nasty. I knew they were acting. They thought staying away for one night meant I had learned my lesson and surrendered. They wanted to pacify me, so everything would return to normal, where I was a silent servant and they were the rulers. I will play along. I quietly put my things away and went to the kitchen to help. The atmosphere during lunch was bizarre. They tried to act normal, serving me food, asking mundane questions. I just kept my head down, answering politely. The spy pen in my pocket had been recording since I walked through the door. A tiny red light blinked secretly in the fabric. From that day on, I lived a double life. By day, I was the gentle, enduring, obedient wife. I cleaned the house, cooked what they liked, without a single complaint. But when I was alone, I transformed. I gathered everything. I took photos of Lily's designer receipts, the expensive bags and shoes she carelessly threw around her room. I managed to photograph Michael's credit card statements, showing massive charges for luxury vacations and high-end dinners I was never invited to. And my ultimate weapon was the spy pen, capturing every conversation in the house. One evening, Michael was out late entertaining clients. Only Helen, Lily, and I were home. Thinking I was asleep in my room, they chatted freely in the living room. "Mom, I put the deposit down on the car. I'm picking it up next week." Lily's voice was thrilled. "My friend says I need premium comprehensive insurance. It's gonna be a few $1,000s. "Okay, I'll tell your brother to transfer it tomorrow," Helen replied proudly. "My daughter has to drive a nice car. Not like that wife of his, driving a beat-up Toyota. Looking at her makes me feel poor." "Mom," Lily lowered her voice, "I feel like Anna has been acting weird lately, just quiet and sullen." "Who cares?" Helen clicked her tongue. "She threw her tantrum, and now she has to behave. Where is a woman going to go without her husband's house? If she acts up, I'll kick her to the curb. She should consider it a blessing to be a free maid in this house. Once she pops out a grandson to carry the Cole name, then I'll figure out what to do with her." I sat in my room, pressing my ear against the door, gripping the spy pen. Every word was a poison needle in my heart. But I didn't cry. My tears had dried up long ago. Instead, a cold, decisive clarity washed over me. "Keep talking. Talk more. Every vile word, every filthy scheme will become ironclad evidence to expose you in court." That night, after they were asleep, I put on headphones and listened to the recording. Their brazen, cruel voices were crystal clear. I smiled in the dark, a cold smile devoid of any warmth. I am going to win this war. This double life continued for 2 weeks. I amassed a solid vault of evidence, recordings of their financial plotting, luxury receipts, and photos of their extravagant lifestyle. I backed everything up onto a flash drive and gave it to my mom. I knew my moment was approaching. Then, an unexpected event escalated the timeline. One morning, while cleaning, I saw Helen receive a phone call from a distant relative. After chatting for a bit, Her expression completely changed. She hung up, her eyes gleaming with an unnatural greed, exactly the same look she had when she heard I had money for the hospital. She paced the living room, calculating. I didn't know what she heard, but my intuition told me a new, sinister plot was brewing. Sure enough, from that day, their attitude toward me did a complete 180. They were no longer cold or critical. Instead, they became sickeningly sweet and overly attentive. Helen stopped feeding me oatmeal and cooked delicacies, constantly urging me to eat and build my strength. Lily stopped sneering. She even bought me a cheap dress from a fast fashion store, claiming sisters should love each other. Michael came home early, brought flowers, and said sweet things I hadn't heard in years. But I didn't feel happy. This sudden shift only made me highly vigilant. I knew a massive trap lay behind this bizarre kindness, and the spy pen remained on in my pocket. A few days later, during dinner, Helen finally revealed her endgame. Anna, she placed a huge piece of steak on my plate, her voice dripping with honey. I heard that the old neighborhood where your mom lives is being bought out by developers to build a luxury high-rise, right? My heart skipped a beat. I understand now. I feigned surprise. Yes, I just heard my mom mention it in passing. I don't know the details. Oh wow, that is amazing news. Helen slapped the table, unable to hide her glee. Real estate there is worth its weight in gold. The buyout compensation must be huge. Your mother is so lucky. Then, she leaned in. You know, our condo is getting a bit cramped. Lily is at the age to get married. She needs her own nice place. And Michael is a corporate director. He works so hard. He needs a spacious house to entertain friends and save face. She paused, looking at me pointedly. Why don't you talk to your mom and see if she can give us 2 of the luxury developer condos she's getting in the buyout? We're all family. After all, your mom lives alone. She doesn't need a huge luxury apartment. I was paralyzed. The sheer audacity crossed all boundaries of human imagination. They wanted to steal my mother's property in broad daylight. Michael chimed in, Yeah, babe. Mom is right. She's just looking out for our future. With a huge new house, when we have kids, they'll have room to run and play. Lily batted her eyelashes, whining. Yeah, sister-in-law, help me out. If I get my own house, I'll be grateful to you for the rest of my life. I looked at the 3 faces staring eagerly at me, feeling only pure disgust. I lowered my head, pretending to think, hiding my ice-cold eyes. The spy pen was capturing every word perfectly. This is a huge deal. I can't decide this, I said weakly. I have to ask my mom. Right, go ask her, Helen said urgently. Terrified I would change my mind. Just tell her Helen asked. Tell her it's out of love for her kids and grandkids, to give us a better life. I'm sure she'll understand. In the following days, they kept up the act. They treated me like a queen, but I knew it was all fake. In the recordings, when Helen and Lily were alone, they plotted that once they secured the deeds to the new condos, they would find a way to kick me to the curb, because a barren woman is just a waste of space. I had enough evidence. It was time to set my own trap, a trap these greedy foxes would willingly walk right into. After going home and consulting carefully with my mom, my plan was locked in. My mother, with the wisdom of a woman who had weathered many of life's storms, gave me invaluable advice. She introduced me to an old friend, Uncle Robert, a brilliant, highly reputable attorney in Chicago. I met secretly with Robert, presenting the entire story and all my evidence. After reviewing it, he nodded, assuring me I had overwhelming grounds to protect my assets and rights. I returned to my in-laws' house with a smile on my face, a smile they mistook for compliance. Mom, I talked to my mother, I said joyfully during dinner. She said since I'm married into this family, your family's matters are her matters. She loves us. So she agreed. Helen and Lily's faces lit up brilliantly. Michael breathed a sigh of relief. Really? Oh, my in-law is so generous, Helen cheered, shoving a massive piece of food onto my plate. Yes, I continued my performance. But my mom is careful. She says real estate transfers are serious and must be done clearly and transparently at a lawyer's office. She wants to draft a formal deed of gift, one condo for us and one for Lily as her dowry. She booked an appointment for Wednesday morning at Attorney Roberts' office downtown. Yes, yes, doing it at a lawyer's office is the right way. Safe and secure. Helen nodded vigorously, suspecting absolutely nothing. She had no idea that the law office was the grand stage I had set up for the final act of their play. On the day of the appointment, my in-laws dressed to the nines, looking ecstatic. Helen even bought a massive, expensive fruit basket, claiming it was a gift to show respect to my mother. I looked at them, my heart like ice. We walked into the law firm. Uncle Robert, playing the role of the neutral notary, was waiting. He gave me a subtle nod, signaling everything was ready. "Hello, everyone," Robert greeted them warmly. "Please, sit. I have prepared the documents per the request of the donor." Before Robert could finish, Helen interrupted, her voice booming. "Yes, sir. We are here to process the property gift deeds. Anna's mother, out of love for her family, has agreed to gift us 2 luxury condos. One for my son and his wife, and one for my youngest daughter, Lily." Robert nodded and turned to me. "Miss Anna, did your mother have any additional instructions?" This was the moment. I took a deep breath, gathered my calm, and pulled out my phone. "Yes, Uncle Robert, Mom, Michael. My mother is getting older, and her memory isn't perfect, so before I left, she recorded her instructions so I wouldn't forget. Let me play it for everyone to hear." I hit play. A voice rang out from the phone. It was my mother's voice, but the content was entirely different from what I had promised them. "Anna, I heard your in-laws want a house. Well, since you married him, I don't want to make things difficult. I agree to let them rent one of the condos, so Lily can stay there temporarily until she gets married. Once she's stable, she has to return it. Remember, it's a rental, not a gift. As for the condo you and Michael currently live in, the deed is still in my name. I am only letting you stay there rent-free. You must be explicitly clear so they don't misunderstand." The recording ended. The air in the room froze solid. The smiles on Helen and Lily's faces vanished, replaced by stunned confusion. Michael's face went from red to dead pale. "Whoa, what is this?" Helen stammered, the first to break the silence. "Anna, you lied to me." "I didn't lie to you," I replied calmly, putting my phone away. "You and everyone else lied to yourselves. My mother never had any intention of giving anyone anything for free." "You bitch! You played me?" Helen roared, lunging forward to grab my phone, but Robert blocked her. "Ma'am, please remain calm. This is a law office. All transactions must be voluntary and lawful." "Voluntary? She tricked us!" Lily screamed, pointing at my face. Now, I delivered the fatal blow. I pulled a thick stack of papers from my bag and slammed it onto the table. "Lied? Let's see who the real liars are." I flipped the pages. This is the complete bank statement of Michael's salary for the past 3 years. Total income, over $250,000. This is Helen's statement showing Michael transferring exactly $8,000 to her every single month. This is Lily's credit card statement. A $3,000 handbag, a $5,000 gold bracelet, endless designer clothes. And here is the $100,000 wire transfer for Lily's house down payment. I flipped to the last page, and this is the total amount Michael has provided to me during our 3 years of marriage, less than $1,000, including grocery money. I looked up, staring down the 3 horrified faces. "You systematically drain my husband's money, my money to live in luxury, while treating me worse than a maid. You conspired to steal my mother's property. So tell me, who are the real liars here?" The room was dead silent. Robert sat with a stern expression. The other associates in the office stared at the family with a mix of curiosity and utter disgust. Helen and Lily were speechless. Michael stood paralyzed, his face chalk-white, his lips moving but producing no sound. He stared at me in total panic and disbelief. He couldn't believe his docile, submissive wife was capable of something this explosive. The curtain had fallen, but I knew this was only the first act. The shock at the law office was so severe that my in-laws slinked away in absolute humiliation. The whispers and judgmental glares of the office staff stabbed into their normally inflated egos. Helen stopped yelling. Lily lost her swagger, and Michael trailed behind them like a ghost. I stayed behind in Robert's office. After they left, he patted my shoulder sympathetically. You did very well. You were very brave. Thank you, Uncle Robert, I replied exhaustedly. Despite exposing them, I didn't feel victorious, just entirely hollow and drained. Now, we need to move fast, Robert said, his tone turning serious. They won't take this lying down. Knowing their greed and deceitful nature, they will likely try to hide their assets or make things difficult for you. The first thing we need to do is file a motion for a temporary restraining order, TRO, with the family court to immediately freeze all of Michael's bank accounts. Can we do that? I asked nervously. Absolutely, Robert asserted. You are his legal spouse. The evidence you have from the massive, unapproved transfers to his sister to the recordings of financial abuse is more than enough grounds for marital asset dissipation. We will petition the court to freeze the accounts to ensure fair, equitable distribution in the upcoming divorce and to stop them from draining any more funds. Hearing the word divorce, my heart still twinged. Even though I was prepared, it still hurt. I understand. I leave it in your hands. That very afternoon, Robert filed the paperwork at the Cook County Circuit Court. With irrefutable evidence, a judge granted the ex parte TRO just 2 days later. All of Michael's bank accounts were frozen. He couldn't withdraw a single cent without a court order or my explicit consent. As Robert predicted, cutting off their massive cash flow threw Helen and Lily's lives into utter chaos. That night, Michael came home looking like a zombie. He didn't dare yell at me. Instead, he groveled. Anna, my accounts are frozen. Can you go to the bank and lift the hold? I promise, I won't let Mom manage the money anymore. I'll give you the cards. I looked at him and smirked. It's too late for that, Michael. This is a court order, not my personal decision. If you want it unfrozen, explain it to the judge. But without money, how will my mom and sister live? He panicked. That sounds like a them problem, I replied coldly. Lily is 24 years old, perfectly healthy enough to get a job instead of leeching off her brother. Your mom is healthy enough to work a light job too. They can't live off your money forever. Michael was speechless. He knew he had no defense. The following days, the condo felt like a funeral home. No more expensive dinners, no more designer shopping sprees. Lily constantly scowled and complained because she had no money to go out with her friends. Helen walked around with a dark cloud over her head, sighing loudly, but didn't dare say a word to my face. They were feeling the consequences, but I knew their greedy nature wouldn't just surrender. A new, more sinister plot was brewing in the dark, and I was ready for it. After a week of suffocating silence and sparse meals, I overheard a whispered conversation between Helen and Lily in the living room while I was reading in my room. I pressed my ear to the door, activating the spy pen in my pocket. Mom, this can't go on, Lily complained aggressively. I have no allowance left. My friends want to go to Miami, and I can't afford the flight. It's so humiliating. I know, keep your voice down, Helen snapped, though she sounded equally anxious. I'm stressed too. Michael looks like a ghost, and his wife is strutting around. Just looking at her makes my blood boil. What if? Lily hesitated. My friend Chloe told me she met this genius crypto and forex trader. He guarantees a 400% return. People following him are buying houses and cars in months. My heart thumped. A crypto scam. Are you sure? Helen sounded skeptical. There are so many scammers out there. It's real, Mom. Chloe showed me her portfolio screenshots, hundreds of thousands in profit. She says the guru has a special algorithm, but you need to put in a massive initial investment to get access to the VIP tier, so the money can multiply. How much is massive? Helen asked, sounding hooked. At least $100,000, Lily whispered. $100,000. I almost laughed. Where would they get $100,000 right now? Are you crazy? Where would we get that? Helen hissed. We, convince Anna, Lily muttered. We, sweet talk her, tell her it's a family investment to make everyone rich. We promise her half the profits. If she sees the money, she'll agree. Once she drops the court order and Michael's accounts open, we have the cash. Do you think she's stupid? Helen growled. She's sharp as a tack now. How do we fool her? We just have to play it right, Mom. Trust me. In the following days, the sequel to their play commenced, even more elaborate than the last. Helen and Lily's attitudes flipped again. They apologized profusely, claiming they had been foolish. They said they realized I was right. Lily couldn't leech forever, and Helen couldn't hold Michael's money. Then, they pitched the golden opportunity. They painted a utopian future of mansions and luxury cars, all thanks to this genius investment. Anna, Helen grabbed my hand, squeezing out fake tears. I know I was awful to you. I was wrong. I just want to make it up to you and our family. This is a once-in-a-lifetime chance. If you drop the court order so Michael can invest, I promise to give you and Michael half the profits. Lily and I will just take the other half. Lily sniffled beside her. Anna, I know I was wrong. I'm sorry. Give us a chance to start over. We'll get rich together, go shopping, travel the world. I looked at the two Oscar-worthy actresses and found it hilarious. I pretended to hesitate, but $100,000 is a lot of money. I'm afraid of the risk. There is zero risk, Helen swore. This guru is a genius. It's a godsend. If you miss this, you'll regret it forever. To build credibility, Lily brought a shady-looking guy to the condo a few days later. He wore a flashy patterned shirt, a thick gold chain, and had full-sleeve tattoos. Lily introduced him as the guru's assistant. I cleverly used my phone to secretly record, Lily handing the man a thick envelope of cash, calling it an initiation fee for the guru. I knew their trap was set, which meant mine was ready to spring. I pretended to be swayed by their promises of wealth. I said I needed time to think and ask my mother, since it was a huge sum. They eagerly agreed, thinking the fish took the bait, but constantly pressured me to act fast because the market doesn't wait. A few days later, I announced my decision. Mom, I thought about it. I agree. I paused, watching their faces. But Michael's accounts are frozen by a federal judge. To withdraw the money requires both my signature and his. And I can't just drop the case without a valid legal reason for the court. It's very difficult. I said it intentionally, to gauge their reaction. Instantly, their faces darkened. What do you mean, difficult? Helen snapped, losing her sweet facade. You just tell the judge we reconciled and want to invest together. Are you making this hard on purpose? I'm not. I feigned fear. But my lawyer says once a judge issues a TRO, you can't just undo it on a whim. Their patience hit its limit. They couldn't wait any longer. Realizing they couldn't sweet-talk me, they resorted to their lowest tactic. Monday morning, while I was focused on work at my corporate office in downtown Chicago, the young receptionist ran in, pale-faced. Anna, you need to go downstairs. There's an old woman causing a massive scene in the lobby, looking for you. My heart thumped. I knew exactly who it was. Thank you. I'll be right down. I stepped out onto the mezzanine balcony, looking down at the grand lobby. Just as I suspected, Helen was there. But she wasn't dressed as a wealthy suburban mother-in-law. She looked incredibly pathetic, wearing torn, dirty clothes, her hair an absolute mess. She was sitting flat on the cold marble floor of the lobby, slamming her hands against the ground, wailing hysterically. In front of her was a large piece of cardboard with sloppy, bold writing. Ungrateful daughter-in-law Anna Cole stole my money and abandoned her elderly mother-in-law. Employees and clients entering the building stopped to stare, whispering and pointing. Several people pulled out their phones to record. Helen, noticing the audience, wailed even louder. Oh my God! My ungrateful daughter-in-law conned my son out of his money. Now she's leaving her sick, elderly mother-in-law to die. Please, everyone, be my witness. Demand justice for me. Looking down from above, I didn't feel a ripple of emotion. Everything was going exactly to plan. I stepped back inside, pulled out my phone, and made a call. Uncle Robert, everything is happening exactly as you predicted. She is in my company lobby. Please send them over. All right, stay calm. I will be there with the CPD in 10 minutes, Robert's steady voice replied. I walked back to the balcony, crossing my arms, watching her performance. A few minutes later, Lily arrived. She rushed over and hugged Helen, crying even more dramatically. Mom, what happened? Anna, how could you do this to my mother? You are so evil. Their theatrical display drew a massive crowd. Building security tried to intervene, but Helen scratched and cursed at them, preventing anyone from getting close. Just then, a black SUV and a Chicago Police Department cruiser pulled up to the building's glass doors. Uncle Robert stepped out, followed by 2 uniformed officers. The sight of the police instantly silenced the crowd. Helen and Lily froze, their act pausing mid-sob. "Who is causing a public disturbance here?" one of the officers demanded sternly. Helen scrambled forward, trying to grab the officer's pant leg to continue her song and dance. "Officer, help me! My daughter-in-law stole my money." Robert stepped forward, presenting a file folder. "Good morning, officers. I am Attorney Robert Vance, legal counsel for Miss Anna Cole, an employee in this building. Here is a court order from the Cook County Circuit Court validating a temporary restraining order on the accounts of Mr. Michael Cole, Miss Cole's husband, due to marital asset dissipation. Therefore, this woman's claim that Miss Cole stole her money is blatant defamation." Robert then pulled out his iPad, playing the audio and video recordings I had provided. "Furthermore, we have evidence that this woman, Helen Cole, and her daughter, Lily Cole, conspired to commit fraud to extort $100,000 from my client. We also have evidence that they are colluding with a known cryptocurrency scam ring." Helen and Lily's faces turned the color of chalk. They stammered, entirely speechless. "Please come with us to the precinct," the officer said without an ounce of emotion. "You are being detained for public disturbance, criminal defamation, and pending investigation for conspiracy to commit fraud." The officers stepped forward, ordering them to move. They put up a weak struggle but were ultimately escorted into the back of the cruiser. I stood on the balcony, watching the police car pull into downtown Chicago traffic, its sirens blaring. The crowd in the lobby slowly dispersed, whispering excitedly. I turned and walked back to my desk, feeling incredibly light. A cold, satisfying sense of victory washed over me. Their play was over, but mine still had one act left. And the lead actor in this final act was the husband I once loved with all my heart. That entire afternoon, my phone blew up. Dozens of missed calls from Michael. I ignored them, muted my phone, and calmly finished my workday. I knew he was sitting on a bed of hot coals, and I wanted him to taste the exact helplessness and anxiety I had endured for years. After work, I didn't go straight home. I took a walk along the Chicago Riverwalk. The brisk evening wind blowing off Lake Michigan felt refreshing. Watching the bustling crowds, I felt profoundly peaceful. I was no longer the weak woman who only knew how to cry and endure. I had stood up and fought my own battle. When I finally got to the condo, it was dark. Michael was sitting hunched on the front steps, his hair messy, his shirt wrinkled. He looked pathetic and exhausted. Seeing me, he jumped up and blocked my path. "Anna, where are Mom and Lily? What did you do to them?" His voice was hoarse, his eyes bloodshot. "They're at the police precinct," I replied calmly, sidestepping him to unlock the door. "Public disturbance, defamation. They'll probably be held in lockup for a few days to learn a lesson." "Are you insane?" Michael grabbed my arm, his grip painfully tight. "How could you do that? That's my mother and my sister. Are you even human?" I yanked my arm free, staring straight into his eyes. My gaze was freezing cold. "Human? When your mother insulted me for being barren, when your sister mocked me for being a parasite, when your whole family treated me worse than an animal, did you remember to act human? When I was in agony in the hospital, begging for $1,000 to save my life, where were you? Did you show any humanity then?" Michael froze, stepping back, completely unable to form a rebuttal. "Get inside," I said, my voice softening slightly but remaining distant. "I have something to show you." He silently followed me in. I didn't turn on the main lights, just letting the yellow streetlights filter through the window. I sat on the sofa and placed my phone on the coffee table. "Sit down. You constantly say your mom and sister are innocent, that they're just weak, pitiful women. Well, listen to how your pitiful women plan to scam $100,000 out of me." I hit play. The recording of Helen and Lily discussing the crypto scam and their plan to con me echoed clearly in the quiet room. Michael's face morphed from shock to fury, to shame, and finally to utter despair. He sat completely still, burying his head in his hands, pulling his hair. I then played the video of Lily handing cash to the tattooed thug. "This is the assistant to the genius guru your sister praised so much. Look at him. Does he look like a financial expert or a professional con artist?" Michael looked up, staring blankly at the screen. He said nothing, his heavy breathing the only sound. The evidence was irrefutable. He had absolutely no excuse left to cover for them. After a long, agonizing silence when the video ended, he finally whispered, Did they really do that?" "What do you think?" I asked back. He fell silent. The silence felt like a century. I had hoped, even just a tiny flicker, that knowing the truth would wake him up, that he would realize his mistake and stand on the side of justice, on my side. But I was wrong. Maybe they were just too desperate, he muttered weakly, trying to find a pathetic excuse to defend them. They got scammed by someone else. They're victims too, right? Mom and Lily aren't evil at heart. Hearing that, the very last ember of hope inside me extinguished completely. I stood up, feeling an overwhelming sense of fatigue and disgust. I finally understood. No matter what happened, no matter how wrong they were, in this man's heart, his mother and sister would always be his #1 priority. I, his wife, was forever an outsider. "All right. I understand." My voice was eerily calm. "You don't need to explain anymore. Go take care of your mother and sister. They need you right now." I turned, walked into the master bedroom, and locked the door. That night, I made my final decision. A decision that would alter the course of both our lives permanently. When I woke up the next morning, Michael was gone. He had probably gone to the precinct to arrange bail for his mother and sister. I didn't care anymore. I cleaned up quickly and headed to the office. The events of yesterday made me the center of attention. The moment I walked in, I felt the curious stares and heard the whispers. But I ignored them. I held my head high and walked straight to my desk. I did nothing wrong. I had nothing to be ashamed of. Mid-morning, Uncle Robert called me. "Anna, I just got news. That crypto guru scammer was arrested. Turns out it was a massive, organized fraud ring that scammed a lot of people. Your mother-in-law's case is just a small piece of it." "That's great news, Uncle Robert. But there's something else." Robert's tone turned grave. "Because this involves organized fraud, Michael's company, after receiving a police inquiry, decided to conduct a sudden, emergency internal audit to review all projects and cash flows managed by Michael." My heart pounded. My intuition told me a much bigger storm was about to hit. Sure enough, early that afternoon while I was preparing for a meeting, my phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. "Hello, Anna, it's me." The voice on the other end wasn't angry or apologetic. It was pure, unadulterated, primal panic. It was Michael, but he sounded so different I almost didn't recognize him. "What do you want?" I asked coldly. "Anna, please, save me." He burst into hysterical tears over the phone. "The company. They're auditing. They're going to find out." "Find out what?" I borrowed some money from the company accounts," he stammered in panic. "Mom kept demanding money. Lily too. I had no choice. I was just going to borrow it temporarily and put it back later. I never thought. How much is a little?" I asked, already guessing the number was massive. "Arshawu Wenmei Yuan. $250,000. I sucked in a breath of cold air. That was way more than the $100,000 his mother and sister tried to scam out of me. It turned out that to fund his mother and sister's luxurious lifestyle, he had resorted to federal crimes. "Anna, please, I'm begging you, help me just this once." His voice was pathetic. "Drop the court order on my accounts. Let me pull out my money and pay the company back before they realize. If I survive this, I promise I'll do whatever you want. I'll cut off my mom. I'll kick Lily out. I'll give you all my assets. I'll be your slave for the rest of my life. Please." Listening to his desperate promises, I felt a wave of absolute revulsion. He wasn't remorseful about what he did. He was just terrified of getting caught and going to federal prison. He was willing to immediately sell out his mother and sister, the very people he passionately defended just yesterday, to save his own skin. "That sounds like a you problem, Michael. I said, without an ounce of emotion. It has nothing to do with me. Anna, you can't be this heartless. Seeing I refused, his tone flipped instantly, becoming a vicious threat. If you don't help me, and I go down, you won't live in peace either. I will tell everyone you cheated on me. I'll tell them you slept with your boss and filed for divorce to steal my money. I will destroy your reputation. You won't be able to show your face in public again. That was the final drop. Whatever tiny, microscopic shred of marital affection or good memory remained turned to ash after that filthy threat. I laughed a cold, chilling laugh. Be my guest. Let's see who people believe. An embezzler facing federal charges, or a wife who suffered financial and emotional abuse. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, I added calmly. I recorded this conversation, too. I hung up and blocked his number. I didn't want to hear another syllable from that monster. I immediately called Robert. Uncle Robert. I've made my decision, I said, my voice stronger and more resolute than it had ever been in my life. I want to file for divorce immediately. The decision was made, and I felt lighter than air, as if 1,000-pound boulder had been lifted off my chest. Robert quickly drafted the divorce petition and necessary paperwork. Everything moved faster than I expected. A few days later, I heard the news. Michael was fired from his firm and summoned by the Chicago Police Department for corporate embezzlement. He was detained pending trial. I thought things would quiet down while I waited for the divorce hearing, but I was wrong. The audacity of my in-laws exceeded my wildest imagination. A week later, I received a court summons. The plaintiff suing me was none other than Michael, currently sitting in a jail cell. He was suing me for equitable distribution of marital assets. And the asset he was targeting? The downtown condo we lived in. The condo my mother bought for me before we even got married. This is unbelievable, I told Robert over the phone, my hands shaking as I held the summons. He is sitting in a jail cell, and he still has the audacity to try and steal my house? Calm down, Anna, Robert's voice was steady. This is a reckless, stupid move. Helen is definitely pulling the strings from the outside. They think because you're a woman, you'll get scared by a lawsuit and settle. But they are dead wrong. Don't worry, we have ironclad proof. On the day of the hearing, I arrived at the courthouse with Robert. Inside the courtroom, I saw Helen and Lily sitting in the gallery behind the plaintiff's table. Helen glared at me with eyes that looked ready to eat me alive. Lily sat next to her, looking haggard, but still maintaining her arrogant sneer. A moment later, Michael was escorted in by 2 bailiffs. He was wearing an Orange County jail jumpsuit, his hair buzzed short, looking incredibly thin and sickly. When he saw me, his eyes flashed with a complex mix of hatred and something resembling a plea. The hearing commenced. Michael's lawyer, a sleazy-looking middle-aged man, stood up to present his case. Your Honor, my client, Michael Cole, and the defendant, Anna Cole, are legally married. During their marriage, they jointly acquired a property located at Address X. Due to irreconcilable differences, my client is seeking a divorce and requesting an equitable division of marital assets under Illinois law. We argue the aforementioned condo should be split 50-50. With a dramatic flourish, the sleazy lawyer placed a file on the judge's bench. This is a copy of the deed to the condo, clearly listing my client, Michael Cole, as the owner. I was stunned. The deed is in Michael's name? How is that possible? The real deed is locked in my mother's safe. I looked at Robert in absolute panic. Robert just gave me a subtle nod, signaling me to stay calm. The judge reviewed the copy of the deed, then turned to me. Defendant, Miss Cole, how do you respond to the plaintiff's claim regarding this asset? I took a deep breath and stood up. Your Honor, I strongly object to the plaintiff's claim. The property in question is not a marital asset. It is my separate, premarital property, purchased entirely by my mother, Martha, and gifted exclusively to me before the marriage. I have submitted all original purchase agreements and bank transfer records to the court. Then how do you explain the deed listing your husband as the owner, as presented by the plaintiff? The judge asked. At this point, Robert stood up, his voice ringing like a hammer. Your Honor, the deed provided by the plaintiff is a complete forgery. The courtroom erupted into whispers. Helen jumped up from the gallery. You're lying. The real deed is right there. You're calling it a fake? Order! The judge banged the gavel, warning the gallery to stay quiet or be removed. Robert continued without missing a beat. We have absolute proof, Your Honor. First, he pulled a pristine document from his briefcase. This is the authentic, original deed to the property, issued by the Cook County Recorder of Deeds. The sole owner listed is my client, Anna Cole. He pulled out another stack of papers. Second, this is a forensic analysis report from an independent handwriting and document expert, concluding that the signatures, seals, and notary stamps on the plaintiff's copy are completely forged. We have reason to believe the plaintiff, Michael Cole, and potentially his associates, committed the crime of forging official government documents. This is a severe felony. We request the court dismiss this claim immediately and refer this matter to the state's attorney for further criminal prosecution. Michael's face turned the color of chalk. He began shaking violently and stammered, No, it wasn't me. It was my mom. My mom told me to do it. Hearing her son sell her out, Helen jumped up like a rabid dog, pointing her finger at Michael. You ungrateful bastard. You're going to prison, and you want to drag your mother down with you? I don't know anything. Your wife hid the real deed and framed us. The courtroom descended into absolute chaos. The judge hammered the gavel repeatedly to restore order. I looked at Michael, then at Helen, feeling zero sympathy. They had driven themselves down a road with no return. After reviewing the files and the forensic evidence provided by Robert, the judge recessed to chambers. The wait felt like a century. Even though I knew I would win, my heart raced. I looked over at Michael. He was slumped in his chair, head in his hands, his shoulders shaking as he cried. Helen and Lily sat in the gallery, pale as ghosts, too terrified to cause another scene. They knew they had lost. When the judge returned, the courtroom fell dead silent. The judge, a stern-faced older man, began to read his ruling. His voice was sharp and decisive, each word a sledgehammer smashing the final hopes of my greedy in-laws. Having reviewed the case files, the evidence submitted by both parties, and the arguments presented, this court finds that the property located at Address X is the sole, separate property of the defendant, Anna Cole, having been gifted to her by her mother prior to the marriage, with full legal documentation to prove ownership. The plaintiff's claim for equitable distribution of this asset is entirely without merit. Therefore, the court dismisses the plaintiff's claim with prejudice and affirms that the property is the sole legal asset of Miss Anna Cole. I breathed a massive sigh of relief. Tears of pure liberation spilled from my eyes. The judge continued. Furthermore, given the substantial evidence of criminal forgery of official government documents and perjury, this court is referring the plaintiff's submitted evidence and all related case files to the state's attorney's office for immediate criminal investigation and prosecution under Illinois law. Hearing this, Michael collapsed out of his chair onto the floor. He sobbed like a child. I was wrong. I'm sorry. Please, Your Honor, forgive me. It was too late. Helen couldn't hold it in anymore. She lunged from her seat, trying to rush the judge's bench, screaming like a lunatic. Injustice! This court is corrupt. My daughter-in-law bribed the judge. She's a curse. She destroyed my family. Give me my son back. Lily ran after her mother, wailing, Give me my brother back, you monster. The bailiffs immediately intercepted them, restraining the two women. Ma'am, stand down and remain quiet, or you will be held in contempt of court and arrested. The courtroom was in total uproar. The judge continuously banged the gavel, ordering security to escort the disruptive gallery members out. Helen and Lily were physically dragged out of the courtroom by two deputies. Their cursing and wailing echoed down the marble hallway. Michael was pulled up by his bailiffs to be escorted back to holding. As he walked past my table, he looked up at me. His eyes no longer held hatred, only an absolute, crushing, empty despair. He didn't say a word. He just kept walking, his back hunched in pathetic defeat. Watching him disappear through the heavy wooden doors, a complex emotion welled up inside me. It wasn't triumph, and it wasn't pity. It was just a profound bitterness for a marriage that began with love, but ended in lies, hatred, and prison. The hearing adjourned, Robert and I walked out of the courthouse. The bright Chicago sun made me squint. Everything was finally over. We won, Anna. Robert smiled. From today on, you are completely free. Thank you, Uncle Robert. Thank you so much. My voice choked up with emotion. Just doing my job, Robert looked at me with encouragement. Now, go home to your mother and start a wonderful new life. All the terrible things are behind you. I nodded, taking a deep breath, filling my lungs with the fresh air of freedom. Yes, it was over. An old chapter of my life had closed, and a bright new one was waiting for me. In life, sometimes we are forced to endure pain and betrayal to realize our own worth and learn how to stand up stronger. Anna chose to face the truth, gather the evidence, and take back everything she deserved. This isn't just a story about revenge. It's a lesson in self-respect, clarity, and the unconditional love of a mother. If you want to continue following dramatic, emotional, and profound real-life stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe to hit the notification bell so you never miss a new episode. Thank you for listening, and see you next time.